Everyone says we're losing our third places. The spaces that aren't home and aren't work, but somehow become part of our lives anyways. They're the places where community happens naturally, where people gather without being told to, and relationships seem to form almost by accident. And as an architect, that got me wondering whether a third space is actually something we can design. Can architects create a true third space, or does a place only become one when people decide to use it that way? When I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, we had third places, but they weren't planned that way. Nobody held a public meeting and declared that a particular building would become a gathering place for teenagers. For my friends and me, it was just the mall. We would spend hours there, sometimes at the arcade, sometimes wandering through stores, but most often just sitting around and talking in the common areas. We weren't there because anyone encouraged us to be there. We were there because it was free, and it was comfortable, and our friends were there, and perhaps most importantly, nobody ever kicked us out. Looking back on it now, that's what made me curious. Why did some places naturally become gathering places while others never did? And it wasn't just my generation. Every generation seems to have its own version of a third place. For some people, it was the local pub. For others, it was a church or a library or a lodge or a diner or a coffee shop. Different places, different people, different cultures, but somehow they all served a similar role. The more examples I looked at, the more I realized that most successful third places weren't actually designed around the idea of community itself. People usually just showed up for some other reason. They came for books, drinks, religion, shopping, games, or just conversation. The activity brought them in, but the community was what made them stay. Now, naturally, I approached the design the way many architects would. I started making a list of everything a modern third place might need. There was a meeting room for community gatherings, a makerspace for creative projects, a game room, classrooms, event spaces, and all kinds of flexible programming. On paper, it seemed like exactly the kind of building that should bring people together. But the more I looked at it, the less convinced I became. It felt less like a third place and more like a facility. It was trying so hard to accommodate every possible user that it started losing its identity altogether. Instead of creating the conditions for community, it felt like I was trying to manufacture community through architecture. The more I thought about it, the more I wondered whether trying to design for everybody was actually making the building less welcoming for anyone. At this point, I stopped asking what rooms the building needed, and I started asking what conditions it could create. If I couldn't force community, what could the architecture actually do? I realized the building needed to provide several things. It needed a reason for people to visit in the first place. It needed to give them permission to stay, and it needed different levels of participation for different personalities. And it needed to feel welcoming without being overly programmed. And the more I thought about it, the more I started removing things from the design. The event center disappeared. The classrooms disappeared. The makerspaces gone. One by one, the specialized rooms were stripped away until what remained was a surprisingly simple building. As I moved into Revit, I wanted the architecture to feel approachable rather than monumental. This wasn't supposed to be a civic landmark or a statement piece. It was supposed to feel comfortable and familiar, almost like a place that had always been there. And the main room became the heart of the building. It provides visibility, connection, and flexibility without prescribing exactly how it should be used. Throughout the day, it could function as a reading room, a workspace, a gathering area, or simply a place to sit and spend time. And one idea I kept coming back to was the notion of the different levels of participation. For me, sometimes I want to join a conversation. Other times I simply just want to be near other people without interacting. I suspect many people probably also feel the same way. So that idea also led me to this porch. For me, the porch may actually be the most important space of the entire building, because it seems to create a buffer between the public and private areas. You can sit outside and observe what's happening, and feel connected to the activity without necessarily being a part of it. The porch allows you to participate on your own terms. I also thought about the building around different levels of sociability. This communal table encourages interaction and conversation. The coffee area offers a more casual social environment. The porch provides a low-pressure form of participation. And the fireplace corner, it creates opportunities for solitude and quiet reflection. Whether a successful third place actually needs all of these levels is something I'm still not sure about, but it felt important to explore the idea. A steward's office also occupies a central location within the building. It provides visibility throughout the main space, and it functions almost like a concierge desk, creating a place where visitors can go if they need assistance while also establishing passive supervision and a sense that somebody cares about what happens here. I also spent a lot of time thinking about why people would come to this in the first place. And looking back at those successful third places in the past, they all seem to provide a reason to show up before they gave a reason to stay. I considered several different anchors for this project, but many of them just felt too specific. But books, that felt different. Reading is quiet, inexpensive, familiar, and it's accessible to a wide range of people. That led me to the idea of a neighborhood reading room. It's not quite a library, and it's not quite a bookstore. It's simply a place where people can spend time with books while remaining connected to a larger community. The smaller rooms provide additional flexibility for book clubs or community meetings, study groups, or whatever else people decide they might need. The coffee bar offers another reason to linger. The outdoor spaces, they create opportunities for gathering when the weather cooperates. Most importantly, the building, it doesn't tell people exactly how they should use it. It's just going to be there to give them options. When I first started this project, I thought I was going to design a third space. By the end of it, I'm not sure that's actually possible. Nobody designed the mall specifically to become my third place. Nobody sat down and decided it would be a place where my friends and I would spend countless afternoons creating memories together. The mall simply created the conditions that allowed those experiences to happen. We showed up, we stayed, and we returned. And eventually, it felt like it became ours. And the more I think about it, the more I believe that architects and planners probably have less control over community than we'd like to admit. We can provide opportunities. We can create comfort. We can design spaces that encourage people to gather. But ultimately, people decide what the place becomes. Some of the best third places gave people a reason to arrive, but it allowed them to stay for community. Maybe we don't just need more third places, maybe we just need more reasons to gather. But I'm curious, what was your third place? Was it designed to be one, or did your community just simply decide that it was? I'd love to hear your stories, because the more I explored this topic, the more convinced I am that the people are just as important, if not more so, than the building itself. Thanks for coming along with me on this journey. And remember, stay curious and design with intent.